I think the mistake we make often as managers and employers is that if I just pay them more, they'll try harder, they'll care more. And it's interesting because that was my mindset when I was young. When I was an employee, my thought was, you don't pay me enough to care that much. And so if you want me to care more, you need to pay me more. And it carries forward. Maybe that's just my mindset. But what I found is the difficulty with incentives is that the thing that really motivates people is unique to them. It's usually within context of like one of five things, right? You could say people have a desire for autonomy. People have a desire for community. Some people have a desire for mastery. Some people have a desire for recognition. Some people have a desire for money, right? There's probably all sorts of big incentives that we could think about, like motivating factors, but like those are pretty good starting points. You know, autonomy, mastery, community, recognition, money. And so figuring out what is the unique combination of levers that you can pull for an individual. For me, recognition doesn't matter. Like, I don't care if I can work in solitude for weeks on end. I don't care if anybody knows that I did the work. But some people, they will run through a wall if you just give them an attaboy. If all you did was say, hey, I saw you do that. That was awesome. Like, some people just live for that. That wouldn't be my lever, right? And some people are like, hey, pay me more and I'll run through the wall for you, right? And some people are like, just let me do my thing. Let me be autonomous. Let me have control. And that's enough for me. And some people want community. They want to feel part of a team. And so everybody is different. That's why people are the hardest part about business. I don't care what anybody tells you, is like, people are always the hardest part, because business only exists in the context of other people, right? You create something to serve somebody. Without other people, you might as well just be a bear in the forest, right? Like, there's no need for commerce or trading for a bear. But for humans, you know, you create something, somebody else gets value out of it, and you exchange it. That's the point of a business. It's your ability to work with and through other people to deliver goods and services to other people. And so people are always the crux of the issue. And because everybody's so squishy and weird and different, and also conflicting in and of themselves, right? Because everybody has like this amalgamation of personalities. Sometimes I'm more motivated by recognition. When it comes to my dad, I'm more driven by, I want him to see me, than I am about finances. When it's, you know, in my day-to-day relationships with my friends and family, maybe that's more about the community, being part of something, right? So different contexts bring out different sides of ourselves in different projects. And if you can understand holistically what a person's perspective or worldview, or like what they value, then you can start to try to incentivize them based on those things. And now you're not putting the wrong coin into the machine. Now you're recognizing, oh, that guy doesn't even need a coin in the machine. He needs this other thing. He just needs to be seen. That's all he really cares about. Or he just needs the opportunity for growth, like mastery. He just wants to get really damn good at the thing. He wants to be left alone so he can get badass at what he does. Awesome. Let's give him more rope to run with. So that's the trick. It's like, and you can't systematize it. There's no system, there's no process that I can hand you and say, go through this, ask these questions. It's a discovery. And a lot of times the person themselves doesn't even realize. That's the crazy thing too. It's not a simple matter of like, hey, what incentivizes you? Because most people will think like, oh, money incentivizes me. Yeah. And it's like, does it really? Like, probably not. Like, because people who are truly incentivized by money, they have money. Right? Like, the guys out there who are the millionaires, billionaires, like, they're incentivized by money, or maybe about making an impact or whatever the thing is. But like, if you're truly incentivized by money, you would be surprised that you would not be just doing the bare minimum, right? And so I think that's a really easy default answer for most employees. Like, they're like, the only reason I'm taking this job is because it pays more than this other job. And it's like, nah, like, people don't quit just for more money. Like, because if you had the best, dopest job in the world and it didn't pay, but it like covered your expenses, and you're like, I love every single day, like, you're less likely to leave that to go and be like a corporate raider on Wall Street, right? Like, and so when people are like, oh, just give the teacher more money, it's like, no, the teacher doesn't care about more money. They need more money to live, but that's not their modus operandi for getting up and out of the bed every morning. And so the more that you can understand the people that you're working alongside, and like, what's their what it is that they get value out of. Like, for you, you know, you're young and you do have this ambition to make a lot of money. And I know you want to buy a jet someday and like all that stuff, but it's actually like money isn't your motivating factor right now, right? Because you're in a learning phase of your life. And so like the growth, the mastery, the opportunity to expose yourself, to create stuff, like that's more valuable to you. And in a way, like your autonomy and like the freedom of your time to like come and go and do stuff on your schedule, it's way more motivating to you than just the money. And so it's like, if somebody just tried to throw money at you, you'd be like, you might be interested in it for a bit. And because you might be lured into thinking like, oh yeah, that'll be great. But then very shortly, you'll start to find yourself like, oh, actually, I don't enjoy this very much. I'd rather take a pay cut and have all these other things. And so that's where self-awareness comes in. But your job as a leader is to help people become self-aware. And if they can't see it for themselves, at least see it for them, because they might not be able to articulate it, but they can feel it. Right? People can feel when the work that they does has purpose and meaning. And most people will never stop to reflect on it. But I think if you want to be successful as an entrepreneur, you have to learn the language of people. And part of that is like the psychology side of things, which is why we spend so much time on this podcast talking about psychology.
Yeah. And so then there's this bigger concept that I hear all the time, which you need to have a vision that's big enough to encompass everyone that's underneath you's vision.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really popular concept right now. Is that your vision as the business owner has to be large enough for the visions of all of your teammates to fit within. And because if their vision for their life is bigger than the vision you have for their life, they're going to outgrow you, right? And so it's just a matter of time till they outgrow you and they go and they find somebody else whose vision for their life or for the business is big enough for the employee's vision to fit within. And you need to have this recognition that if you want to attract really great people, they're going to have really big visions for their life, which means that by default, if you want to keep them long term, you have to have a massive vision, or you have to accept that they're going to eventually leave. And that's okay too, right? Like great people are going to go do great things. You don't have to try and change the world if that's not what you truly want, but recognize, okay, your big vision for your life is this. I can't help you beyond this point, but up until here, I can. And as soon as we hit that, it's time that we have a conversation, because now you've outgrown me and you've outgrown us. And my job as a leader now is to help you go on to the next thing so you can continue moving towards your vision. If my vision is, if I'm refusing to expand it to fit within yours, right? And so I think that's a really helpful concept. But honestly, I think a lot of people listening to this, a lot of entrepreneurs that have a team, like they're not even doing the basic, which is they're thinking right now, they might be listening to this and thinking, well, I don't have a big vision. And what is that even? Like, I don't know, but you don't even know what your team's vision is. Like nobody's ever stopped to ask them like, hey, what is your big vision? Like, I know that I talked about like buying a jet someday. Right. So I understand the context of like your big dream someday. And like, it's not about the jet. It's about like the stuff around that allows you to have that thing. Right. And so most leaders don't even know that. They've never sat down with their team to be like, what is your vision? And the reason that they've never done that is they've never thought that it's important. But also, again, going back to self-awareness, is most people just have never stopped to reflect. What is your big vision for your life? Most people don't actually have an articulated vision for their life. So when you sit down with your employees and you're like, hey, Brenda in HR, what's your big vision for your life? Where do you want to be in 25 years? She's like, I don't know. And it's like, okay, now your job is to help her vision cast. It's to help her create that vision. And a lot of times there's like these different points on the trail that I think people go askew, where they're like initially like, okay, yeah, I need to have a big vision for my team's vision to fit within. Boom, I got my big vision. Okay, now I need to know what my team's vision is. So now I'm going to sit down with you and Nuge, what's your big vision? And you're like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, figure it out and let me know. And then, months go by and it's like, well, you never came back and told me what his big vision is. So I don't actually know. And you sit down again and you're like, I don't know. And you're like, I don't know either. So you come back and tell me, right? And then you just get in this flywheel of like, okay, you have a big vision. You need to know their big vision, but they don't even have a big vision. And you don't know how to help them create the big vision. And then you don't know how to help them see and connect their big vision within the context of your big vision and how the two actually go together. And so there's like all of these step functions that have to occur. It's not just you have to have a big vision. It's not just you have to know what your team's big vision is. It's now like you have to know what the big vision is. You have to know what your team's vision is, which means you have to help them understand their vision. Then you have to help them see how it all comes together. And until you do that, you will find that everybody's in the same boat. They're rowing the paddles, but they're maybe rowing them out of sync. You know, and you got one guy in the front of the boat who's like rowing backwards, right here. It's like, so that's what I think about when I think about incentives. But that's a really good question, and it's a really hard one to answer. That requires a lot of time spent with the individuals, having conversations and actually probing, and not just taking the surface level answers that people give you, because people will just give you like the really basic answer. I just want to make more money. You know, they'll give you the answers. Most people will reflect back the dreams that they think society expects of them, right? So the American dream, or, oh, I guess I'm supposed to, you know, like it would be very easy. I've had employees do this before with me where they're like, oh, I would like to build, you know, what you have. I would like to have $1 million business and a media empire. I like to write books and stuff. And their vision just becomes a mirror of my life. And I'm like, is that really what you want? Like, you sure about that? Like, really, let's unpack it. Like, because maybe you do, maybe you don't. But like, it's really easy just to steal the dreams of others that you can see rather than dreaming your own dream. And I fell into this trap for a really long time. You know, I had this idea of like, oh, I need to build $1 billion company, make this massive impact in the world. Otherwise, like, if you're not the next Elon Musk, what's the point? Or like all of this stuff. And you have to be careful about what you consume and who you consume it from, because their dreams will start to become your dreams. And you don't even stop to question, like, is that actually the dream you have for your life? And it's only been within like the last 5-6 years for myself that I've looked back and I go, actually, you know what? I was on a different path. I was on a path towards a thing, thinking that was where I wanted to be. And now that I'm close enough to see it off in the distance, I'm like, actually, that's not what I want, right? And so you have to have like that courage to be questioning of the dreams that you hold for yourself and saying, like, is this actually what I want? Or is this the vision that my parents had for my life? Or is this the vision that school and society or what my friends think means success? And therefore, that's what I'm running towards. But yeah, it's a really good question. I don't know if I answered it, but hopefully this brings somebody some value out there. So we'll see you guys in the next episode.
That was fantastic.